All right. Having said all that, there's some, for everybody needs kind of some essential basic estate planning documents to put in place. And those would be, the first would be the question of either a will or a revocable living trust. That directs your, if you do the will, it directs your probate estate. If you don't want to go through probate, you put it in a living trust that becomes irrevocable at your death, and the trust agreement specifies who gets it. And because there's no probate estate, the will doesn't make any difference whether you have one or not. It doesn't control anything. Now, it's important once you set those up to realize that how you title these assets, as I said, is consistent with your idea of what happens to your estate, because you don't want to set up a will or a living trust. And, for example, you don't want to set up a living trust and never transfer any assets to it, because the living trust is only going to control what you put in the living trust. So there's two steps to that. So let's start with the first document. And this is one of the ones to deal with when you're alive, and that's the durable general power of attorney. And what it does is it gives somebody that you trust the authority to act on your behalf if all of a sudden something happens to you, whether it be a stroke or you just get Alzheimer's or you get hit by a truck and you don't die, and you have all your money there and you have bills to pay and everything else, but you haven't died, so your will's, there's no probate or anything. You need somebody to pay your bills and take care of you and make decisions, financial decisions for you, and that's what it does. Whether you're rich or you're poor, you need one of these. Because otherwise, your bank, the money in your accounts just sit there, and if you don't do it, somebody has to go to the court and get appointed your conservator, and that's an expensive process that you can avoid by a simple, durable power of attorney. The key is, you have somebody that you trust in charge of your money if you're not able to do so. And really, the cons there aren't any. There's just simply no reason not to have a durable power of attorney in place, to have somebody act on your behalf that you trust, that you appoint to act on your behalf if something happens. The medical power of attorney is the second document that you need, and it basically does the same thing as the general durable power of attorney. It too is durable, and durable means that it survives your mental incompetence. If it's not durable, the minute something happens where you're not mentally competent anymore, your power of attorney terminates. When it's durable, it doesn't terminate until your death. So the medical power of attorney can be the same person as your general power of attorney, it can be somebody different, but it's typically for somebody to make your medical decisions for you, to handle your health care needs. Again, there are no adverse consequences to having this in place, because otherwise somebody has to go to court to handle this, and you just don't want that. This is, if you remember several years ago, the Terry Schiavo case, they did not have, where the wife was in a vegetative state, and they didn't have any of these documents in place, and her parents thought she wanted one thing and the husband wanted another thing, and they had to go to court and spend lots of money, and you can simply avoid that by a medical power of attorney. Directive to physicians is it's what people it's typically called a living will, not to be confused with a living trust. A living will basically just tells the doctor when you have a terminal disease or something, where you've been in an accident that you're not going to recover, do you want them to pull out all the stops, or do you want them to just give you palliative care to where you're comfortable and you die naturally? This one's a surprising thing to me, because again, you tend to think people think the way you do, but people think all over the board about this. And if you want all the life-sustaining treatment, and you think there might be a cure for something along the lines, that's what you think everybody's thinking. If you just want to say, okay, I'm not going to survive this, I want to just go, they think everybody should want to do that. So I'm always surprised by this, and I'm always surprised that husbands and wives look at this differently. But again, it's important because it goes back to like the Terry Schiavo situation is if you don't have this in place, you got maybe competing interests arguing over your life. And you had the chance while you're mentally competent to make that choice for them and let them know. And a lot of people, you think you think your spouse knows that or whatever, and nobody really knows. And so it's important to have that in place. And it's a very simple document. It's not expensive, and you should have one. And your parents should have one especially.